Professor Andre Roux is the head of economics at the University of Stellenbosch, and he joins us now. A very good afternoon, Professor. The expectations of the SONA are always so high, and each time it comes around, it seems that matters are that much more pressing. Broadly, what do you think will be the key touch points for the President this evening, economically speaking?
Well, I think we need to, first of all, I agree with you. What we don't want is a grandiose list, a grandiose wish list full of platitudes. We're looking for cohesive, coherent, doable, practical ways of trying to restore the integrity and the growth of the economy. So maybe we need to go back to basics. In fact, we should go back to basics. And the basics tell us that a well-performing economy needs to have various enabling factors in place. And these include the well-known ones. They include the physical, tangible ones, such as a good, solid working infrastructure. So we start there. We all know about, obviously, Eskom and all its woes. We need a doable, pragmatic, time-related plan to get Eskom, to get the lights burning again. Secondly, we need institutional renaissance. We know from looking all over the world that institutions, by that I mean anything ranging from the public protector, the auditor general, the judiciary, and the like. In a democracy, they need to be autonomous, they need to have integrity, and they need to be competent. These are some of the basic building blocks. Now, it's interesting and almost ironic that when we look at documents such as the Global Competitiveness Report, that we fare quite well in fairly sophisticated areas, such as market size and the financial sector, but which you normally associate with the progress made in developed countries. But in terms of these basic things, our rankings are not great at all. So we almost got this perverse structure. We're good at some things, but we're not very good at getting the basics right.
Yeah.
Now, I think we also have to accept there's no one-size-fits-all solution, and we cannot imagine, there's no way that the president will be able to solve all the problems in one speech. I think that's expecting far too much.
Yeah. Professor, let me come in there. There's a call, obviously, to expand the social wage, talk around the basic income grant. Do you think that the president will hint at that ahead of the budget? But of course, the finance minister did say at the midterm budget that if there were any further income support, it would be revenue dependent. And there is a question mark about how sustainable that revenue that's coming in will be.
Yeah, and therein lies the dilemma, which can probably describe many other problems, and that is fundamentally, over the last decade or so, we have become a nation that in many ways lives beyond our means. That includes the government. We all know that the government debt has spiraled over the last few years, from a very handsome, admirable 26% of GDP around about 2005, now heading towards 80%. And one of the problems is that a big part of this additional borrowing has been incurred to finance current spending, such as wages, civil servant wages, as well as the social welfare grants, as well as interest. Our interest payments alone on government debt amount to 5% of the GDP. So we caught, in a typical hard place where political expedience and socioeconomic expedience and even humanitarian considerations justify these payouts, as it were, these subsidies to those who are in need. But the money's not there. Well, the money's not there unless we cut back on other areas, and it's difficult to imagine which ones. So this is going to be, typically, we find all over the world, a trade-off between economic efficiency and political expedience. Whether the president will make any announcement this evening, I really don't know. Should he make an announcement? I think he needs to give us some clue as to the way they are thinking. And we can indeed prove, it has been proven that social grants do alleviate the situation of millions of South Africans, especially those who have taken the most strain in the recent COVID-induced epidemic. It does help to ever so slightly narrow the inequality gap, amongst other things.
Yeah. Professor, very quickly, of course, there are people who are very antagonistic against us still having a national state of disaster set up, especially with us being at very easy restrictions now that in recent times, of course, we had the announcement that the lockdown level 1 was a lot more easy. There are a lot of freedoms that we have that we didn't have before. And so many people think that we should get rid of that. Do you think that that will be announced in order to unlock whatever other potential there is in the economy that's not yet been untapped?
I don't think that the lockdowns or the relaxation in its own right will make a huge difference to our economic performance. We have lots of structural problems. Personally, I would tend to err on the side of being conservative. I don't think we're out of the woods yet entirely. I would hate to see a situation where all lockdowns are relaxed entirely and then we are confronted with a new wave in a few weeks' time. By the way, I note that the more recent numbers, 3,200 and something new infections, a bit more than a week ago. So I would play it safe there, wary of the fact, mindful of the fact that we once again, as we have been for the last 2 years, having to weigh up the lives versus livelihoods debate. But as I say, I don't think that in its own right will be sufficient in any case to restore the economy. There are more fundamental things, the obvious ones: infrastructure, institutional integrity, stamping out corruption, taking action against those already found guilty of or supposedly guilty of corruption. Skills, obviously, stands to reason. Education is in a serious situation. So I would rather like to see a focus on these things, which have both short-term and long-term benefits.
Professor, we'll speak to you a little bit later. Thank you very much for your time and insights there, Professor Andre Roux. He's the head of economics at the University of Stellenbosch.